What's up, guys? My name is Max Vollman. I'm excited to have you here at today's webinar. We're going to talk about creative financing. To give you a quick insight on who I am and what we've accomplished together, me and my wife, we have started real estate while still being in college with absolutely no background, no experience, and no money. So when we initially started our real estate business, we had $76 to our name. And we basically decided to jump into the industry and learn to swim while being in the water. And within those years of being in the industry, we have learned a lot. Initially, we started doing virtual wholesaling of vacant land. This is how we started initially getting into real estate. So when a lot of people were moving out of the cities into the suburban areas, there was a huge shortage of homes available. So we took advantage and we were selling a lot of these vacant parcels to homeowners and developers and made a profit on assigning contracts. From there, we scaled into virtual wholesaling of houses in different states, and we're fully operating on the land side in 8 states and on the housing side in 3 different states. And then from there, we transitioned into our fix and flip operation. We've done probably over 250 wholesale transactions in the last 2 years and over 100 fix and flip transactions and turnkey deals. We've built out our own in-house acquisition team, in-house transaction coordinator and disposition team, and also in-house construction team due to that heavy volume of sometimes even doing 5 to 10 fix and flips on a monthly basis. We've acquired a bunch of rentals, short-term rentals. I think right now we're owning over 52 long and short-term rentals, and we're in the process right now of buying 7 more rentals that we're converting into short-term rentals. We currently own 110 doors within our apartment syndications and are consistently growing and buying more apartments and syndicating those deals. So we've done a lot of things from wholesaling to doing syndications. We have raised over $25 million in private equity funds internationally, not just in the United States. We've taken advantage of our international relationships and have raised a lot of money internationally as well. So we've quite done a lot of things in the last couple of years, and the market is turning a lot right now. We are obviously in a global recession. Interest rates are super high, and a lot of these traditional methods are not working anymore. So this is why I wanted to talk about creative financing and basically have you guys add that to your toolkit in order to be more successful and capture more deals. So obviously the question is how to be a successful real estate investor during a recession. I personally think there's massive opportunities in the single family residential space, but also in the multifamily space during a recession environment for you to capture generation wealth and build financial freedom, especially for acquiring rentals, right? There's going to be an opportunity for you guys to buy more rentals and build more long-term wealth, build more passive income to replace your current active income, and just have long-term financial freedom. We need to understand that success is a marathon. It's not coming overnight. Don't try to chase these things that are going to make you successful overnight. Understand it's step by step investing today, so you're going to be one step closer to your 3, 4, 5, 10-year target, and do the right things. Now, obviously, there's still an opportunity for you guys to do quick cash through wholesale transactions and fix and flips by utilizing these creative strategies. And I will go more into this in detail later on. So what is currently happening and what is changing? We all know that we are in a global inflation environment with huge inflation rates. We have massive interest rates here in the United States right now, which is making it extremely hard for us. So there's obviously a nationwide price adjustment and a price decrease due to those high interest rates, right? It's just a nature of the federal exchange is raising the interest rates to 7-8%. Prices of homes have to naturally come down because there's an affordability issue. People are getting pushed back into renting versus owning. And especially with a lot of these hedge funds right now, they've captured massive market share during the last 2 years, inflating the market crazy, and now still being on the sideline, trying to capture a lot of these deals at discounts. There's going to be a lot of these homes owned by hedge funds, and you will never be able to buy these homes again. So if you're having affordability issues and getting qualified for your mortgage, you'll push into renting from these hedge funds, which is not making it easier for us, and it's obviously giving a lot of power to hedge funds. So the market is definitely changing, and I'm not sure how this is going to turn the next couple of years, but I think we need to take advantage now of acquiring our rentals, getting our control back in that market, so we're not losing our control to the hedge funds. Also, a lot of people have seen a massive wealth decline. The crypto and the stock market have tanked, right? It's not a secret that they have tanked by a lot. And this has decreased how people feel about their wealth, right? Because they're looking at their assets. Assets are going up. They feel wealthy. They feel comfortable making decisions. And the comfort has decreased because a lot of that wealth has been wiped out to some degree or just declined, which is not necessarily helpful in a recession environment. Now, real estate is also changing. Fix and flips are risky in a downturning economy because you're tying up a property today, expecting the value for the property to be X in 2 months, and it might not be, right? The market is going down. It might sit another 2 months longer than you expected because there's just affordability issue, market slowdowns. So you will see more risk in doing fix and flip transactions. Wholesaling is also getting a lot harder. We're currently in that gap between the seller and the buyer. And what I mean by that, statistically speaking, a buyer is always looking ahead, right? A strategic buyer is always looking ahead, understanding what is happening in 2 weeks or 4 weeks, and is therefore making the decisions on purchase based on what is happening in the short term, especially for single family that we are flipping, wholesaling, or anything where we're making short term predictions. Versus sellers are usually 45 to 60 days back. So they're still believing that they're at the very tip, are able to write down this current wave, and are still getting their property for current asking price sold to some retail buyer, but they're not understanding the market is already turning. So until this gap is closing, there will be a difference between what we can offer and what sellers are willing to sell their properties for. So the burst strategy is super hard right now. It's almost impossible to do a refinance and still cash flow at 7 or 8% interest rates, right? So if you're doing a bridge loan to rehab it and then refi it, once you have a tenant in there, banks usually look at the DSCR, so your debt service coverage ratio, and that has to be somewhat around 1.2%. So if you're getting high interest rates on a $200,000, $300,000 refi, it's killing your cash flow, making it almost impossible to do a traditional refi without leaving a lot of money on the table and in the deal, and therefore decreasing your cash and cash return and your return on investment, and therefore not really making it an attractive acquisition and disposition strategy either. So how can we generate wealth and passive income despite the changing real estate environment? Being creative is the solution to our solvable problem, right? So that's going to be our solution, is being creative, understanding how we can add value to current problems, and this is going to help us be a successful real estate investor. So this crash is going to be different than the one in 2008. A lot different, right? Because there are still hedge funds and a lot of institutional money on the sideline waiting to buy back massive market share and control the rental market. Like I said, these hedge funds are not done yet. And obviously, if a lot of money is coming back into the real estate industry, prices will adjust again, prices will stabilize again, but obviously at a discount. So these hedge funds are pushing down the values. So there's not going to be a huge decline like it was in 2008. It will stabilize at some point. There will still be activity going on that market. The other more important thing is Eric Burns, one of the major economists here in the United States, has published that there's $29 trillion in individual homeowner equity. So he's not talking about investors or investment properties. He's just talking about individual homeowner equity. And 90% of that equity is secured at less than 4% interest rates. So what does that mean for us? It means there's a lot of wealth and equity at low interest rates that we can assume in order to make these deals happen, right? And more about this later. But the natural recession behavior is once that gap closes, once the seller understands, shoot, you're not in a position to sell at that price anymore, prices are going down, there's going to be a panic sell. So stuff is obviously sitting on the market. People are not going to be used to that feeling anymore, right? A lot of sellers have seen their neighbors in the last 1 or 2 years sell their property overnight, $50,000 over asking, and now stuff is sitting. So less offers are coming in and people are getting freaked out. There's going to be panic, so they're dropping the prices or they're not having a lot of options anymore. And then hedge funds are buying a lot of properties at huge discounts. So if you can compete on just offering higher prices, you'll be more likely able to win those offers and those negotiations against the hedge funds versus a couple months back or a year back, hedge funds won because they could just outbid us, but they're not going to buy them at these prices anymore. So you have a strategic position in place. And people just cannot afford ownership and being pushed out to rentals, making it more attractive for you. Understanding if I'm acquiring a rental portfolio in the next couple of years, I'm going to be able to hedge against inflation and I will capture a market need. Let's talk about creative financing, and I'm going to do a case example first before we go more into like the details. But let's assume we're having a property on 123 Main Street and it's currently listed on the market for 60 days and it's only gotten a couple lowball offers. The owner is currently trying to relocate because he's getting a new job in a different state and is looking to sell, but he's not looking to sell at a huge discount because he would like to use his equity and roll it into another property. So the owner currently has what he believes $60,000 in equity and is a mortgage for $240,000 at 3.25% that is still valid for another 25 years. The owner is looking to sell his house for $300,000, which he believes is the fair retail value. But because the market is changing, the retail value now is closer to $280,000. There's some heavy price declines across the market, and the property probably needs another $10,000 in renovation to get it up to retail value. So what can we do? We can do like a traditional fix and flip or wholesale, which right now with the market turning, you have to adjust your wholesale prices and your fix and flip prices to be conservative and to capture disposition strategies. So right now we almost have to go down all the way to 60% of ARV. So a typical calculation would be 280K, which is the retail value of the property right now as is, times 60% minus the rehab of 10,000, which gives us an offer price of 158, which would not satisfy the current mortgage, and therefore the owner would not accept it because in this case he would have to pay another $80,000 or so to the bank to walk away and find a new house and then make a down payment on a new house as well. So that's not a solution. Novation, which is a different strategy that we're also teaching in our masterclass, would allow you to basically wholesale that property through the MLS to a retail buyer by having certain contracts in place that allows you to do so. So you're not necessarily looking for the cash buyers anymore, you're looking for the retail buyers. And that allows you to make more competitive offers, right? You can go all the way up to 85%, sometimes even higher of ARV minus rehab. In this case, same calculation as above is going to give us a 228, 230 offer, which is a lot more than the initial wholesale offer. In this case, still too short for the owner to do what he wants to do. So that owner would not be the perfect fit for a wholesale kind of transaction or a novation transaction. But we have other tools in our toolbox, and I'm going to go into this later. If you're buying it as a rental, and let's say the 1% rule is true, and the market rent in this case is $2,800, so it's 1% of the retail value, then we could, technically speaking, make it work as a rental. But that is also not as easy anymore because, like I mentioned earlier, banks usually the 1.1 to 1.2 DSCR, so the debt service coverage ratio. So if you're doing the math at a current 7.9% long-term refinance rate, you can get up to a 70% LTV in order to make a $300 monthly cash flow. And if you're buying it now at $300,000, which is the asking price of the owner, you have to keep $98,000 in that deal, which is not great because how many rentals can you buy if you always have to put $90,000 in that deal? So there aren't going to be many rentals. Plus, you put $90,000 in and a $300 return, your cash and cash return on investment is not great, especially for buying it at retail. You're not going to have much forced appreciation equity. So it's a risky play to do any kind of purchase in that regards. So our option is now going to be creative. We have two options and there's multiple options in between, but I'm going to talk about some two options just to give you the perspective of what is possible. The first option we have is subject to. So here we're going to give the owner the equity and we're going to take over the existing mortgage. In this case, even if we're buying it at $300,000, it's $20,000 over the retail value. You're going to tell the owner, okay, I give you $50,000 cash and I take another $10,000 and put that into rehab. So you're getting a total of 60, but 10 of it is going to go into the renovation. Meaning, because the owner is now the lender, he still has somewhat control of the property. If you default in your payments, the property goes back to the owner, meaning that renovation you've done is also going to go back to the owner, is also going to benefit him. Additionally, you could ask the owner for him to do the renovation, get a $10,000 discount or vice versa. But we usually structure it and tell them like, hey, I give you $60,000, but we put $10,000 in renovation. Makes them feel like they're getting more in their pocket. And then we're taking over the existing mortgage. So in our example, we said market rent is $2,800. If you're using a mortgage calculator, it will spit you out at the given rates that the mortgage amount is $1,170. Property tax and home insurance is, there's the annual estimates based on our market right here, what we're paying for like a subject property like this. So your total monthly expense is $1,495, which leaves over $1,300 a month. And if you're a conservative investor, you will probably also calculate some extra budgets, a 5% vacancy budget and a 7% maintenance budget, which also costs you another $308 or could cost you another $308 a month. So if you're really conservative, you will have a net cash flow of around $1,000, which is a great cash flow considering you have a $50,000 or $60,000 investment. Having $1,000 a month is a great return. It's a great cash in cash. And you also have already built in equity, and you're playing now the long-term game because you have 25 years to satisfy this mortgage. And over 25 years, you will gain more equity and capture the cash flow. The creative option 2 would be a hybrid deal. So you're still doing a subject to taking over the existing mortgage, making the payments in the owner's name, but you're giving the owner only $10,000 down, which now still goes towards the rehab. So basically the owner's getting $0 down in his pocket, but you're giving him another $20,000 over time in his pocket. So meaning you're going to tell him, hey, I'm going to give you $320,000 for your property that is currently worth $280,000. I give you $0 down, but I put that down payment towards the rehab. Like I mentioned earlier, it's still going to benefit them. And I'm going to refinance that with you as a second position. So I'm going to do a 30-year fixed at 4% with the option to refi you if interest rates drop below 5%. So now your payment is going to be $364 a month to the owner, which now still leaves you $940 cash flow. Or if you're considering the conservative budget that we initially mentioned, then you still have $633 in cash flow coming a month. But now you have to consider it's on a $10,000 investment. So the cash on cash return is even greater. The cash flow is great. And it's really, really a good deal. And you can do a lot of these deals this way because you don't need to have a lot of money in order to do those deals or to make the magic happening. So if your solvable problem is to make $6,000 a month in passive income, then you need to run 6 of these deals. And I believe in the next 1 to 2 years, you will have massive opportunities to get at least 6 of these deals and to capture those opportunities ahead to be financially free. Now, you still have auto exit strategies with those acquisition strategies. You can still wholesale the contract to an investor for a quick cash transaction. Right, so if it works for you on your cash flow, it will also work for investors. So you can tell them, hey, give me $10,000 and I give you the contract to that property and have you assume the mortgage. Or you can sell it to a lease option buyer. So you're arbitraging on the monthly payments and you get an upfront money as a down payment. A lease option buyer is basically a rent to own kind of agreement where you tell somebody, hey, you have 18 to 24 months to rent to own it. And in the time frame, you have to cash out, refi me once interest rates drop and you can afford the mortgage payments. Or you can still make it a short-term rental. Now, with that being said, we're going to have a second video on more details, but that was the first video. I'm basically giving you a quick understanding on the case study. And then the second video is all about more detailed information on lease options, subject to how to structure them and what is needed. So stay tuned for the second video, which there's also a link down below in the description for you guys to quickly have access to the second video.